I'm in Max. You are listening to Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. I'm in Max. Pursuing the RPG hobby with reckless abandon.
Why, hello, and welcome to Season 23, Episode 5 of Happy Jack's RPG Podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
My name is Adam.
And it is 6:36 p.m. Pacific Time, and we are beginning 25 and a half hours
Roughly.
of continuous streaming.
It will be fine.
Maybe without air conditioning.
We knew something was going to go wrong.
At least it wasn't the computer. As some of you may know, and some of you...
Why did you say it out loud?
Wow.
Stu!
As some of you may have heard and some of you may not have heard, we're doing a 25 and a half, we'll just say 24 hours.
Yeah.
The bow tie's cutting off circulation.
It is cutting off
Yes.
circulation to my brain. That, yes.
But you look so handsome.
Thank you. We're doing a 24-hour telethon.
No.
Yeah, it is telethon. Just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's new.
Right.
Twitchathon?
Twitchathon.
Streamathon?
Streamathon. I like Streamathon.
No, they're not.
Gameathon.
I'm not going to call it Twitchathon.
Streamathon
they want to pay
sounds
for
like
branding.
Streamathon sounds like a transformer.
It does, actually.
For Rainbow Railroad, which is an organization that helps LGBTQIA plus.
Yes.
I got it? Bam!
Yep.
People around the world in areas where their governments don't want them there and hunt them down and sometimes kill them, torture them, and this organization tries to find these people, help them get to someplace safe. So we thought it would be it's a worthy organization. We thought it would be a worthy cause to spend the next day trying to convince you to donate.
Donate.
And if you would like to donate to them, you can go to happyjacks.org/rainbow. That's oh, look at that, it's right there. happyjacks.org/rainbow. And there it will take you to the donation site. It's a third-party donation site because we don't want to have to touch the money.
Yeah, we're not touching the money at all.
So, and then
I can raise the roof and like.
Yeah.
so if and throughout this entire ordeal, we will be monitoring donations, and there are going to be prizes
Yes.
during the games for the largest donations. And that's about it. Anyone else want to say about the organization?
Well, it's fantastic, but about the prizes real quick, I want to go over the prizes more specifically. For each game we're playing tonight, we're giving away a PDF of a system. So you get to choose the different systems. It's very exciting. So that's very cool. We also have a couple of dice sets, rainbow dice sets, with like patches and cool stuff that come with those. We've got 2 of those. So those we're going to give away at the end of the 24 hours. We're going to see who gave the most over the 24 hours. Like the 2 top donations, you don't have to be there the whole time, but whoever gave the most over the 24-hour stream, the top 2 will get those. And since the donation page is going to be up until the end of the calendar year, till the end of December, at the end of that, we're going to find the top 4 for the whole fundraiser. So even if you're not able to watch live or participate live, and the top 4 donors total will get to play in a online Happy Jacks game with Jason GMing.
Oh, awesome.
So we have prizes for everybody at every level who's able to be here or not. So yes, do the thing. happyjacks.org/rainbow.
Yes.
Excellent.
And I'd just like to say, as one of the alphabet soup in there, so I'm G, Q, and maybe a plus.
Yeah.
Trust me, the alphabets get away from me too. I'm in there. But anyway, I want to say on a personal level that this, I'm going to tear up. This means so much to me that it's hard to describe. And the things going on in Chechnya are awful and horrendous. It is a pogrom. It is a hunt. It is a systematic. It's we only don't call it genocide because it's not race or ethnicity based, but it is essentially a genocide that's happening, and it's a truly terrible thing. And to have this group of people that I normally just drink and get crazy with pull together and see a problem and come up with a way to help instead of just whining and bitching about it it's just such a beautiful moment, and it means a lot to me personally. So thank you. And thank you to everybody who's involved, and thank you to all the donors. We just can't tell you how much we appreciate everything that's been done so far.
Yeah.
Yep, there's the tears.
Yay.
Yeah. Damn it. Okay. I cry easily.
That's okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
And let me just say, let's go to the tote, as they say in the L'chaim to Life telethon. So far, before even starting, we're at $1,570.
Yay!
And that is with 29
And it's just
donations.
starting.
Yeah.
And it's just now starting.
It's
So thank you,
so
all of
lovely.
you who gave your early donations. We appreciate it very much.
Yeah. And I was joking when I said it, but I was like, oh yeah, if we get over like $1,000 before we even start, like I'll dye my hair.
You dyed your-
We did, so I now have purple hair.
Oh,
It's
excellent.
very exciting. Kind of it's a little,
Lovely.
it's hard to see, but
Right.
it's
Yeah.
purple. It's very purple.
I promise you it's purple.
It's purple, and it's the first time I've ever done anything to my hair ever. Even like cutting it more than
Even
a couple
combing
inches.
it?
Well, I brush it and style it. Not ever.
Wash
you know what
it
I mean.
at least occasionally.
Yeah.
I can
Flick it when you go out of the pool. Do the
Do the thing.
flip my hair
Yeah.
back and forth. I flip my hair back and forth.
Now we should say, in the event of ties, because people tend to donate round numbers.
Yeah.
In the event of ties, we're going to roll a die
Yeah.
because we're gamers.
That's
so
what we
everyone
do.
just
That's
has
what
to
we do.
agree to the fact that if you're in a four-way tie for first place for a prize, we're going to roll a d4.
Yep.
Yeah.
Them's the what's the term? Them's the breaks.
Yeah.
It's the break.
Yep.
Yep.
All right. But this is actually an episode too. We're actually going to have an episode.
We're gonna do.
We
it.
are.
In this episode of Happy Jack's RPG podcast, we discussed. Well, we already did that. We discussed some basic rules for good GMing.
Yes.
Dave from Tampa sends us a possible GM success story, and Frederick sends us a very topical 24-hour gaming marathon horror story.
Oh no.
Yay! I can't wait.
That's what we want right now.
But first, if you would like to email us, you can email us at happyjacksrpg@gmail.com. That's happyjacksrpg@gmail.com.
Yes.
Or you can go to the social media, happyjacksrpg, all one
The
word.
one social media.
The one social media. Well, no,
It is a
media isn't
monolith.
media plural?
Media
Medium.
is plural. Yeah.
Medium is one.
Yeah.
Right, but they say the social
Media is
media is
technically
everything. Well, you
plural.
do. That's the thing.
Meteors.
Oh, that's right. Sorry. The meteors.
We're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. And MeWe! We're on MeWe.
MeWe.
Come MeWe with me.
Stu's on MeWe.
I've not
Happy
gotten
Jack's
into
RPG.
MeWe yet. Yeah. I'll
Happy
have to
Jack's
check it
RPG, all one word.
I still maintain nobody is going to
ads.
kill Facebook until they come up with a photo importer. All our photos are in Facebook, and until they make it so you can click a one button and move all your Facebook photos and tags.
Which is
to-
why Facebook is not doing that.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's suddenly, strangely
Somebody-
not in their API.
I know, right? Yeah.
They're holding
Somebody
us
needs
hostage.
to hack that if they want to fix
yeah.
Facebook. So
So first,
Yes.
now, I realize during the course of this, we're going to probably have some new listeners. So I
Yes.
thought it would be a good time to sort of revisit the best practices for GMing that we've come up with over the years.
Yeah.
I wrote down 3. I don't know if either of you came up with any,
Sure.
but we did. Okay.
I have plenty, but I was just curious because you have 1, 2, and 3, and then you have a 4, but it's blank, and I thought maybe just like blanking out and saying nothing was inappropriate.
It could be. It could
I
be.
mean, it's what I do a lot.
I was thinking people. No, it says right there, feel free to add any I missed.
Oh, okay. I don't see that on here.
It's on the. It's the second paragraph in that section. Hi. Okay.
Oh, there it is. I read.
Number 1, probably the first GMing tip we ever gave, and this comes back from when we used to have to take improv theater classes when we worked at. Well, we still work at
We
Fair.
still, yeah.
When we had to take improv classes at Fair
Every year.
every year.
So even if you've been doing it for like 20 years and you were on a stage show, you still have to take the improv
or a
classes.
street actor, even.
Yeah.
So actually,
No, I'm
then
saying
more.
that stage shows like you
Right.
don't need improv when you're in a stage show.
And we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
I got a set list right here.
There's a script. Like, it's
But
a thing.
we took these things, and the biggest takeaway from those things is a concept called yes and.
Yes.
And
Yes, and.
yes and in in theater sports is if you are doing an improv scene with someone else, and they have added to the reality.
Yes.
And they say, "Oh, hi Bob, how was your trip on the bus?" Well, now your name is Bob.
Yep.
And you just got here on a bus from somewhere.
Yeah.
So you say yes to the new
Yeah.
the new things that have been added to the reality.
Yeah. That doesn't necessarily mean you're like literally saying yes, because that would make no sense in that scene.
Right.
But you also don't say, my name is Jim.
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? This
Right.
the house is not moving.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Have had that happen in theater sports.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Oh, good. That's helpful. Thanks,
Right.
person.
Yeah, I'd love to be corrected during
Yeah.
improv.
Oh,
It's
it's super
fantastic.
fun. Yeah.
But and then the and part is then adding to that reality, adding to that narrative. Now, using the yes and in its strict sense in RPGs is pretty rare. I mean, there are some games where there is literally no preps in the beginning, and the amount of collaboration in the storytelling is extremely high, where you are literally behaving this way. It is literally yes and. The GM, someone says something, maybe there's a mechanic that's saying this thing now exists, that thing now exists, you have to roll with it and keep going.
Right.
But when we originally came up with this, a lot of those games were kind of off of our radar. The
Yes.
real narrative, like Powered by the Apocalypse games.
Yeah, when we first started, we only played D&D for the most part.
I had played a lot of.
Well, we played other stuff, but the only thing we were playing at the time.
Yeah, we had just started
yeah.
a 4th edition D&D.
Yeah, and that's kind of what brought us all back together.
Right.
Yeah.
And our concept of yes and is if the players ask for something or ask you a question about something, most of the time it's because they have something in mind because they want to do something cool. So you should always consider answering yes before saying no.
Yeah.
Always, because yes, more often than not always, but more often than not, is going to give you a more interesting story than no is, generally speaking. Is anyone else have any sort of comments about the whole concept of yes and?
My only addition would be that, to me, the worst thing that can happen from any kind of action that a player takes is nothing. And it is literally the least you can possibly do as a GM to say nothing happens. Let something happen.
Yeah.
And the reason is you're not, when you're a GM, you are not the god of the story.
Yeah.
You are the environment. Right. You are what everybody is interacting with, and so it's extremely important that you always let something occur, because then your players have something to react to, and something pushes the story forward. And when I'm GMing, or I know other good GMs, what they do is they are more focused on the story than they are on the mechanics of the game. And I think a lot of GM missteps happen when you get more concerned with the mechanics of the game than telling a story that's going to entertain you and your players.
Right. I agree.
Yeah.
Someone on the forum just thought that maybe this podcast might predate Apocalypse World 2010 by 1 year.
Yeah.
Ah.
There you go.
We're old.
Yeah. Some of us are old.
Yeah. No, I think
You good?
it's still great. There's actually, and that's, I mean, we're not taking credit for yes and, because that's something that's sort of been through the space, but it's one of those cool things that is becoming more and more prevalent. I think we've watched it. Speaking of how old we are and how long we've been doing this,
I will take credit for it.
you. But like seeing that kind of gaming philosophy slowly start spreading and becoming more popular in the gaming community. Like I've got friends now who like have it like tattooed on them and stuff. It's like super cool. It's like, yeah. So that's been really, really fun.
Excellent.
Can I read something from the
Yes.
chat
Yes.
room? So GM Radio Rob said, Adam's right. The GM's not God. They're Satan. Which is hilarious. But
Sometimes.
Radio Rob, get a new GM.
I mean,
Sorry. I mean, where's the Savage fan? Thwarp. Yeah.
If you're not part of the solution, you're the GM.
hopefully.
Right.
Right? Yes.
All right.
All right.
The number 2 one I put down is be a fan of the player characters.
Yes.
This is the one that changed my life when I think it was I think I first encountered this during when I first got exposed to Apocalypse World, and the original Apocalypse World, and and I had GM'd like D&D and White Wolf, but but I had always, I'd grown up with adversarial kind of DMs, but they were also very conscious of story and very, very willing to do the rule of cool. Like, if this is really cool, I'll figure out a way to let you do it.
Yeah.
And so when I saw Apocalypse World, and it just spells out very clearly, your first duty is be a fan of the player characters. I'm like, that is so amazing. Yes, that's what I always wanted to do. Like, if I'm GMing, I want these players to succeed. I want these characters to win and be big damn heroes.
Yeah.
And I had always been searching for the permission to do that. And seeing that statement really kind of transformed the way I GM'd.
Yeah. It's a very elegant way of putting it. And like everyone knows what it's like to be a fan of something, especially in the nerd world. Like we got fandom down, man.
Right. Oh yeah.
But yeah, just like loving what they do, and like I think part of being a fan is like I guess this isn't true of of nerd fandoms necessarily, but like the loving no matter what, like oh man, I love this system so much, even if there's some weird things sometimes, it's like, oh, I'm still like a fan of it.
Yeah.
And like loving your players in that same way, because like most of the time when people talk about fans, if they're not in the game space, the nerd space, they're talking about football teams and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're a fan of that team, whether they're losing, whether they're winning. At least you should be.
Or you're a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even when some of the movies suck.
Exactly. Good example. So you're a fan of those players. So even if you don't love everything they do, you still love them as players and as characters.
Yeah. I mean, after X-Men Schism, the X-Men comic books were just god awful. But I'm still an X-Men fan and always will be.
Right.
Like what is it? The Cubs didn't win a World Series for, I don't know, sports ball. But,
a really long time?
Yeah, it was like over 100 years.
737 years.
That's accurate. Yes.
But
I got this stuff out of my head.
I understand why people love them anyway.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's just thing you do. Like we what was I going to say? I don't remember. Go ahead.
But this, of course, stems out of the adversarial GM.
Yeah.
And I mean that is in some ways sort of ingrained in a lot of the traditional role-playing games that came out of the 70s.
Yeah.
The GM was his main job, or her main job, was to run the bad guys.
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole. I mean, and if you're talking about dungeon crawls and things like that, there wasn't a whole lot else to do. So you ran the bad guys and tried to kill the player characters, and you want to make you want to do a good job of it. So you want to make it scary and such. So you would really, and I think a lot of players sort of lost touch with the fact that they were playing a game. And as the GM, you have so much stacked on your side that you can use against the players. There's no challenge when you win.
Yeah.
Zero challenge.
It's true.
It's like, okay, we're going to play chess, but I win if I flip the board.
Right.
Right?
You know what it reminds me of? This is funny. I'm so sports ball-y tonight for some reason. But it reminds me of when the Harlem Globetrotters would play another team. Of course they can win. Of course they can. But
when they play a professional team.
Yeah.
Because they had their own team that they played. I can't remember the name of them. The Washington Senators or...
Don't know why you're looking at me I would know.
There was a team that toured with the Harlem Globetrotters, and that was their foil.
Yeah.
Someone will mention it.
But they would play like regular teams, or they would play like, I think they played like college teams or stuff like that. But they would play, and sometimes they would play like celebrities or regular people, I think. But... I don't know. The Harlem Globetrotters are one of the only sports teams I actually followed it anyway. And you can see how much I know about them.
Washington Generals.
Yeah, the Washington Generals, yeah. But like the joy wasn't knowing they're going to win. The joy was how beautifully they played. And I feel like that's what your player character should be as a GM, is let them be the Harlem Globetrotters. Like you put out something that's going to be entertaining, but they're going to win. because it's more fun that way. We want stories about heroes, not stories about the people who died ignominiously in a dungeon.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could also have interesting stories when you have, if things turn, if
yeah.
they don't go around and coup d'etat every member of the party.
Yeah.
You could certainly have cool stories that way, but that should be the rare exception,
Well, I think
not the rule.
I'm going to disagree. Like, I mean, it sort of depends on what flavor of campaign you're running, but they can lose battles and still win the war.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that actually can make things more poignant at the end and make things more, I don't know, epic and dramatic if they're not going to win everything.
Right.
Like, the idea is that they win the overarching storyline. Like, they defeat the big bad at the end, but that does not mean they have to win everything in between.
Yeah, yeah.
And they shouldn't, because it's great sometimes to win.
Absolutely. Going back to my Harlem Globetrotters reference, because I'm so butch tonight.
Yeah. I was thinking that, bro.
Like, thanks, bro. Slipped real hard tomorrow.
Woohoo.
But
Swole.
Swole, yeah.
Actually, we know how to use these words. Actually,
That's
this is
right,
great.
we do. Kimmy made me swole.
I did.
But one of the best
sounds
things
dirty.
about those, like,
For those of you in the game space, swole means like ripped and from lifting.
That's right.
It does not mean swollen like
Like other...
turgid.
Engorged.
Yeah, engorged.
Engorged. Yes.
Turgid.
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 Yeah, throbbing.
Well, we were super professional for a while. There we
Right.
go.
Yeah.
Welcome
Tried.
back.
But like one of the funnest moments of any of those Harlem Globetrotters exhibition games was when the opposing team actually finally scored a goal.
Right.
Oh yeah.
And everybody's like, "Woo!"
Basket.
You know
basket.
they're still gonna lose.
basket.
Yeah, a basket. Oh, sorry, a basket. Touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, wait.
Go, find your mic.
Yeah, it's good.
Getting
No,
real
but you're
conscious.
right. Like having like those the unexpected moments, the surprises, which sometimes is the players winning when they don't think they're going to win against a bad guy, or having the bad guys win when they don't think they're going to, and having to have the good guys or the party. I shouldn't say necessarily the good guys because the party's not always the good guys. Having them retreat, and having to find a way out. Oh, we were surprised that we were able to get out of there. Like
Right.
the element of the unexpected.
Yeah.
Novelty is the flavor of life in RPGs.
But in short, the GM should want the party to succeed.
Yeah.
The GM
Yeah.
should not go into the game thinking, I'm going to have a TPK by hour 3 because I have a sphere of annihilation that's covered by a rug.
We should probably have that sign out for all the games tonight, because when you're GMing at 3:30 a.m. and you're just like, please everybody die so I can go home and sleep,
Rock everyone dies.
please.
Yeah.
Somebody
I
get me
finished the game in 15 minutes. You guys figure out what to do for the next 3.5 hours.
Yes, we're ready to go. God damn it.
Yeah, unless you're playing Tin Candles, by the way, then yes, you want a TPK by hour 3.
Yes,
Absolutely. Is your mic not working?
definitely.
Mine? Oh, I turned it off to get it.
There
Oh, okay, there
I
we go.
turned it off to get it off of the
Nothing.
floor and forgot to turn it back on.
All right.
Okay.
So be a fan of the player characters.
Yes.
Number 3, come up with problems, not problems and challenges. Let the players come up with the solutions.
Right. Yeah.
Come up with problems and challenges. I'll say that again because I fucked up.
Yeah.
Let the players come up with the solutions.
Right.
Yeah.
The not doing this is a great way to drive yourself insane with game prep.
Yeah.
Yup.
Because if you come up with a tower and the players have to get a prisoner out of the top of the tower, don't spend time trying to figure out every way the players might try to get in.
Yeah.
Just design a good prison tower.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do.
Yeah.
Figure out what kind of foundation is it going to have, what the wall is going to be made of, how much damage does it take to knock a wall through,
Right.
whatever. How tall is it? How much of it? What's the DC going to be to climb up to the top of the tower? Just figure out all the basic stuff that you need to know about the tower. Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
I promise you, they will talk for 2 hours trying to figure it out. They'll be fine.
And they will argue the stuff you never thought of.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, like gravity is blah, blah, blah. They'll pull out like numbers you've never
God,
heard
yeah.
of. And you just sit there and nod and pretend, oh, yeah, I totally thought of that.
And my favorite is when they come up with an incredibly overcomplicated plan. Look. There's a rock nest in that mountain over there. Let's go capture a rock. No, we'll capture a rock egg.
Yeah.
We'll hatch it. We'll hand feed it so it's tame, and we'll have it fly us over the tower, and then we'll drop down on top, avoiding the guards.
I feel attacked.
They do that, and it's fantastic when they do that. And I love that's the most entertaining thing for me. For Jim is going, wow, that's complicated.
Yeah, but I mean, they're amazing what they come up with sometimes. Stuff that is so much smarter than anything you would come up with. And I think that's one of my biggest pet peeves when when I'm playing with non-Happy Jacks people, and a lot of times very traditional like DMs and GMs are like this. They're like, oh, there is the one answer to this challenge that I planned, and the elves of yore, like it's like the melon of like everything, and you're just like, that's really funny in like a movie and like in a book. It's not so fun when you're actually fucking Gandalf standing there for hours while everyone else is just standing there waiting, trying to come up with the answer to this riddle.
Fucking
like, that's not
hunting.
fun. Yeah. Not good. So like,
there's reason all of those Nintendo ET games were buried in a pit in Arizona.
Well, I mean, it's
awful.
It's fine when it's like one-on-one, because I was a big fan of a lot of those like mystery games where you had to find the exact, like Myst and all those. Like, you have to find the exact, and that's what
Myst was kind of like a giant escape room.
Yeah, exactly. And when I'm in the mood to do stuff like that, I don't play tabletop RPGs with 3 other people sitting there staring at me, waiting for me to do it. Like, because that would make me feel dumb, because it takes a while sometimes.
Yeah.
So like don't do that. There's not one right answer. It's not a fucking multiple choice question.
One of the things I like, so we if every other Monday, Second Star here on Happy Jacks RPGs, we're playing Star Trek Adventures.
Yes.
Right.
One of the awesome things that it has is this scientific theory mechanic where the players come up with a list of 3 to 5 solutions to the scientific mystery. And then secretly, the GM decides which one of those is going to be true, and then the players have to decide which direction they're going to start first, and they have to try and get to the right one and figure it out and do the skill checks in order to solve the mystery. And what I love about that is that it's kind of what a lot of GMs do, because like you have your prison tower designed. And then you hear them come up with their like crazy ass plans, and like you've got 4 players and you've got 6 different plans that they've come up with. We always joke because I'm a costumer. You put 4 costumers in a room and you get 5 opinions.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Players.
6 if we're both there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Gamers are kind of like that too. Yes. Like you've got 4 players, they're going to come up with at least 5 different ways that you could approach the problem. And you as GM, a lot of times you sit back and you go, oh, that's the one. That's way better than anything I thought of. That's it. And and then they argue for another 2 hours about it, try to convince each other, and then they finally go with the wrong one, and you're like, yeah, you screwed up.
Yeah.
But, but the point is, like, it's part of the fun for me of GMing is just like sitting back and letting the characters dig their own holes and build their own crazy scenarios, and I'm like, oh, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think
I would actually say that's number 4.
no, I've already got number 4 written down.
Oh, you do? Oh.
He reminded me of number 4.
Oh, well, he segued into it. Okay, maybe it's the same one. We might be thinking the same thing.
No, it's not. Go ahead and make that number 4. I'll make mine number 5.
Okay, fine. So you get for leaving number 4 blank. Like good GMing, like listen.
Yes.
Like listen to your players.
And steal from the players.
And listen to them and take their good ideas.
Yeah.
And they will be like, oh man, we're so on the same wavelength. And you're,
Very often when I'm running a game, suddenly there will be two or three things that are like totally disparate and seem totally unrelated. And in my mind, they are unrelated. They're just 2 different things.
Yeah.
And one of the players will go, if this and this and this, that makes these 2 things not only related, but part of the same conspiracy. And I'll be like,
I feel like we do that
and then they look
all
at
the
me
time
in
in
awe.
Ukai.
Like,
Yeah.
How did you
brilliant bastard. Well, I don't know. It just comes to me.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah, I'm just that good, guys.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love making things so. I mean, and it's like almost unintentional when I'm a player, like making things much worse than they are.
Oh,
yeah.
Like, oh my god, like especially when it's like a mechanic in a game where it's like, oh, you rolled a fail. Tell me what happens. Like 9 times out of 10, I'm going to say something much worse than the GM would ever have thought of.
Oh, yeah.
And most of the time, the GM looks at me like, "Wow, that's really terrible. Oh my god."
Why'd you do that to yourself?
Because it's cool, and everyone else is just like, "Oh god, why do you let her talk?"
Yeah. Oh, it's so true. Especially like really good quality players, which you are. Will put their characters through so much hell,
break ourselves.
like way more than the GM would.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. The GM's like, oh yeah, you get stabbed in the arm, and the player's like, oh yeah, it's poisoned, isn't it? I'm gonna die in like 6 hours, unless we find this witch who lives on the other side of the woods.
Yeah.
I had a player named Fred in my old GURPS game in college, and he was like that. And he had a character. It was a female barbarian named Mershawn or something like that.
Yeah.
Mershad. And she became lovers with the big bad guy's lieutenant or something, and got pregnant, and recreated the birthing scene at the table, which in and of itself is
dramatic.
I mean, it was. I mean, he had his heels up on the edge of the table and everything. I mean, he was doing the whole thing. But after that, as soon as the baby was born, his character was like raised by slavers or something, and was totally unaware of the fact that babies don't talk. So when the baby was born, the baby wasn't talking, wasn't answering questions. She thought, oh no, the gods have cursed my child. I'm taking a vow of poverty until the gods give my child the gift of voice.
Oh my god.
And so took off her expensive plate mail armor, threw away her sword and her extra fine spear, and went and got sackcloth robes and a stick.
Nice.
and probably did 4 or 5 months of adventure like that until the kid says "Dada," and it's like, oh, give me my armor back. But
the gods have pardoned us.
Right, I didn't impose that. That was all on
magic.
the player, and it was fun. It was hysterical.
Yeah, my favorite is that guy's face when we were playing that game at the last con, when we were doing the Wheelhouse RPG, and like he was like, "Oh, okay, like you rolled badly. Tell me what happens." He's expecting like, "Oh, I have a wound,"
right?
And it's like, our party leader, our guide, is kidnapped, and now he was just like staring at me like, what? That's shit! I fucked up so many of his plans. It's like the dawning of I've made a terrible mistake.
He rolled with it though.
Oh yeah, he did. Oh no, he did a great job. I mean, it's super good, but it's just so fun sometimes. I feel like it's like the opposite of a railroady GM is like a player who fucks everything over for you.
Right.
Oh yeah,
Right.
yeah.
The wrench thrower.
The wrench thrower. That is what we are.
The gremlin.
I like wrench thrower better. That's prettier. Nothing. It's fine.
No. Number 5, and this you had mentioned this, and this is a tirade I used to go on all the time. The GM is not a god.
Yes.
Yeah. And when the very first time I went to the Warhouse in Long Beach, which was one of our 2 local gaming stores in Long Beach back in the 70s, I walked into this place with a couple friends. We rode our bikes there. It took a long time because we lived in East Long Beach, and this is in West Long Beach, and it was probably a 2-hour bike ride.
Uphill both ways.
Yes, actually it was.
In the snow of Long Beach.
In the frozen tundra of Long Beach. And
it was 52 degrees.
Right. And we get there, open the door, and this place, they still have original Ralph Partha stuff in the original packaging hanging on their little pegboards because their inventory it did totally disorganized.
Yeah.
But they had this back then. They had this huge gaming table that was probably not quite as long as this table, but square. So it was probably like 8 by 8, big table, and there was a guy running a D&D game, and there's a bunch of players around there. And as we walk in, and we're kind of looking around a little bit, the GM says, and he's like the comic book store guy.
Yeah.
Welcome to my birthday garden. The only magic that works here is mine.
Oh, God. Oh, good. That's great.
Right?
It's gonna be good.
So, and
Good thing I made a barbarian.
and that was kind of like the start. And then it happened more and more where you would see GMs that were trying to railroad and things weren't quite going their way, and they lacked all subtlety, so they would just make fiat decisions and say, we're not going to use this rule today, or no, it's hailing. Or I mean, one of the things the GM does control usually is the weather, and that's his or her prerogative. But I mean, let's have some clouds roll in first to give people a little bit of notice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it has always bugged me that GM hubris has ruined more games and created more horror stories for us, by the way, thank you, than probably any other gaming sort of flaw.
Yeah.
Because you're just the GM. You're just another player at the table.
Yeah.
Yes, generally speaking, you're going to put in more work per game session than anyone else is going to, because you're doing some sort of prep, presumably.
Yeah.
And at the table, you kind of have to be on your feet. But in the end, you're just one person in a collective group. You are not the sole arbiter of everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes, you are the referee if there's a rules discrepancy, or if the rules if you can't figure out exactly what the rules are saying, that's up to the GM to determine that. Because game manufacturers, they can't figure everything out.
Right. You know, what I would add to that is you are not a god, semicolon, you are a player. And I think that's something a lot of GMs forget, is that you're also a player. You get to have fun too. This should be fun for you. If you're not having fun GMing, figure out a different way to do it.
Right.
Because it's a hobby. This is supposed to be your fun times.
Yeah.
And, I mean, unless you're getting paid to GM, which please tell me how they get that job. But otherwise, enjoy yourself. Make sure it's something that you are going to have fun playing, that your characters are also going to have fun playing.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter what else you do.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I used to get so irritated with people who are like, oh, you can't role play in D&D. It's like, yeah, you can.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right, exactly. And even
Sorry, Canada.
Sorry, Canada. Even in D&D, the books would say the number one rule is have fun.
Right.
For everybody, have fun. If you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong. It's the only way to do this hobby wrong.
Yeah. Well, and our favorite term is the collaborative storytelling. That includes the GM. The GM is part of that collaboration.
Yeah.
So that's important that everybody at the table has, a voice. And that's the GM, that's the players, that's, everybody. So work together to create a cool story.
Yeah.
PJS in the forum said it has also turned off people to RPGs altogether.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's true. I know people that have played once, and they played with that guy who's got the deity complex, and he's like, no, I'm never playing that again.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, but you can try, come on.
Yeah.
But no,
Yeah.
they don't.
Yeah.
Any more tried and true tips you can think of off the top of your head? Because
I think those are
that's
the meat.
Yeah.
Like,
those are the essentials.
Yeah. That's
next week, the potatoes.
The potatoes. Let's stop for a second. I want to call out people who've done donations. So I want to thank Anthony. I want to thank James and Jeffrey. I'm not going to say last names. But thank you so much for all your donations. And yeah, we'll give away a system at the end of the podcast too. We'll do that. We've got enough of them.
Oh, we do? Okay,
yeah,
awesome.
We'll be good. So, super good.
Thank you, everyone.
And we're going to the tote. And the total is $1,735. $1,735.
Yes.
33 donations.
Amazing.
So James is in the lead right now for this particular
Yeah,
part
James.
with a $105 donation.
See? I knew gamers would figure out a way. It's like, everyone just says $100.
Yeah.
105.
Somebody's going to do 106.
That's
right.
Bidding war.
I'm cool with this.
Right.
This is fine.
Yep, I'm okay with it.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you guys
you, everyone.
so much,
Thank you.
so much. Yeah, all right.
All right. A
On to the
GM
emails.
success story with a question mark from Dave in Tampa.
Uh-oh.
This is more a funny moment at the table than I thought I'd try to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's neither a horror nor a success story. Oh, but you said it was a success story. You lied. Though I thought it was a success story at first. We recently wrapped up our Wearing the Cape superhero RPG powered by Fate.
Oh.
I decided that the game needed to end with some significant deaths and a couple of big cliffhangers to give the campaign some gravitas.
Nice.
That's always like important, especially in like a superhero campaign. Like I feel like there has to be
Sure.
like
Yeah.
Unless
some risk.
even in Mystery Men there's risk.
yeah.
There was an attack made on their base by what was essentially an evil Ultraman. Ultraman. Neither of you know who Ultraman is, do you?
I vaguely know Ultraman. I never read
It was Japanese.
it was. That was the video. Yeah, it was the anime.
No, it wasn't. It didn't start out as anime. It was.
okay.
It was a live-action Japanese
Yeah.
show. It was sort of like.
Googling
That's
it.
right. Yeah.
I used to watch it in the 70s on Channel 52.
Yeah.
That tells you how popular it was.
Yeah.
And he could like grow huge, and he would cross his arms like that, and this laser thing would shoot out.
Right.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah.
got like the silver helmet.
He has
yeah.
a silver helmet with a big
Okay.
point thing at the top.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's like the
Ultraman.
grandfather of the Power Rangers or something.
Ultraman.
Yeah.
Ultraman. It had a cool 60s
Very
song,
cool.
too. It was awesome.
Nice. I've seen it. Okay, cool.
Campy. All right.
What? A show from the 70s was campy?
Right.
No way. Very surprised.
There was even a rip-off movie called Inframan, and you could see the sneakers of the monsters' costumes underneath the costumes.
Nice.
In the movie,
Nice.
I paid to see in a theater.
Wow.
And that was Inframan. But it was a cheap rip-off of
Yeah,
Ultraman.
yeah.
Never as good. An evil Ultraman who crushed the headquarters, probably by stepping on it, and caused all kinds of damage before he was stopped. As a result, one of the main NPCs, the government administrator of the group, was killed in the falling building. The next session, we had a funeral for that NPC. That's a nice touch. I read a carefully prepared statement by one of the other NPCs, a retired hero named Sparrow, who went through the administrator's life and achievements. During my soliloquy, I noticed one of my players, we'll call him Joe because that's his name, was tearing up.
Aw.
I dove into my performance, convinced that I had them all gripped, and that really this was really touching Joe. I'll get there. My partial slipped. By the end, Joe was wiping tears from his face, and everyone was left speechless. Victory, right?
Yeah.
No, not really.
Uh-oh.
About 2 hours later, during a break, Joe told me that his cat allergies were really bothering him, and he was going to switch to the other side of the table, away from the cat tree. I told everyone at the table that I thought he was really touched by the role-playing.
Aw.
Joe responded by saying, "Nah, I never really gave a shit about Colburn. Good speech, though."
Oh, good.
Cue
As
the-
a player who also suffers from cat allergies and having to have like sat through other people like games for like 5 hours, just like dying. You're just like, oh god, I can't breathe. Please, let's kill things quick.
And if I want to have a truly emotional game, I have a special powder puff that's stuffed with cat hair.
yeah,
That
yeah.
I switch for Kimmy's.
Yeah,
and
just
she goes like,
throw it.
up, 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 up.
Yeah. Yes.
And I can't breathe.
Yeah. I don't get like pretty tears. It's like puffy eyes. Like that's what's crying is like suddenly I'm like swollen up. And I start having like that like asthma breathing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know
breathing.
anything
Swole,
about
bro.
that.
Swole. Yeah, exactly.
Your face gets swole.
My face becomes very turgid and
Engorged.
it's engorged. Puffiness. Yes. It's lovely. Makeup does nothing. All right.
Cue the uproarious laughter at the GM's expense. Of course.
Yes.
Anyway, we moved on to Mutant Year Zero, and we're loving it. I'm still applying all of the tenets of good tenets. With
Yes.
I don't think there's N in tenets.
No.
No.
Right. Of good GMing laid out by Happy Checks RPG Podcast. Thank you very much. Good on you.
Thank you.
There are
Continued
now,
thanks
like,
to the
4 more.
podcast and all that you do, Dave from Tampa.
Yay! Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
It's awesome.
Yeah, this is like, it's cute, but it's also really sad. As one of those people who always like, I create these NPCs and I want somebody to really care about them. And then it turns out that they're like, yeah, I didn't really know them. Like, wait, who was that?
That was
Which one was that? Was that the one with the face?
Yeah, that was the one that saved your life, that you fell in love with. You're like, oh, yeah, I wasn't really in love with him.
Oh. Yeah, that's painful.
Well, I thought Kimmy got a little verklempt when we were playing L5R, when you guys came back to the Inukai Valley, and everyone's gone. Everyone was dead.
It was very sad.
It didn't belong to the Inukai anymore. Now it belonged to a bunch of crabs.
It can again.
It could. It's possible.
They don't technically own it yet. It's in flux.
I'm sure
no escrow has started.
It's an escrow.
It's not. I know.
Ghost Dad was probably thrilled that it belonged to Crab now.
Actually, probably. Actually,
It's like, this is perfect.
Now you can reach
Swear your
Crab
sword.
and
Swear
make
your
crab
sword to the new
babies.
daimyo.
Very excited about. Oh, the crane are all dead. You're Ronin again. Oh, look who happens to be here. A bunch of crabs.
But I think it's one of those tricky things with creating NPCs, and like as when I'm doing a player character, I'm always I can get really invested in NPCs, and I love them. And I'm like, oh, they're so cool, and but as a GM, like I try to make characters NPCs that I think everybody will get excited about.
Right.
And a lot of times they just don't know or they don't care, or they just don't realize that it was somebody supposed to be important to them.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So, which I usually think of that as like, well, I didn't really properly engage the NPC with them then.
Maybe, but you also have. I mean. Like, I get this with students all the time when I'm teaching. It's like, oh, here's a fact I love that you're going to think is so cool. Chirp, chirp.
Oh,
chirp.
right,
Like,
yeah.
nobody cares. Like, but then I'll say something else, and they will glom onto that other thing that I like, oh, I didn't think that was interesting.
Penicillin comes from bread mold.
Right. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Wait, bread can mold? I didn't know that. Like, why does it mold? Like, suddenly you're like, the lesson was about... But,
we'd in costume history class when I was teaching, like I would get really excited around the time we got to the Norman invasion, because I would then start getting into my linguistics nerdery, and I'd start explaining, like, this is why a food is called the English root, or a deviation of the English root when it's alive. But once the animal is food, it's called by the French root.
Yeah.
So, and the reason is because, like, after the Norman invasion, the English...
Give me an example of that, because I'm not aware of this.
So cow and beef.
Oh,
Cow comes from the English language, from the Old English, which is initially from Old Dutch and Old German, but beef comes from boeuf, which is the French and Latin word. But the reason is that after the Norman invasion in England, the English people took care of the food to serve to their French aristocracy, because the French had taken over England. So I would get super excited about this. I thought this was one of the coolest things that's ever happened in language, and I would explain this to my students, and they're like, what does that have to do with anything?
Nothing about a French seam, I guess.
I mean, it's so cool. Why don't you care?
Yeah.
It's like chicken and chicken. Because in English and French, chicken sounds like chicken.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
No?
That's
I
important.
think chicken tastes like... no.
Yeah, I know. We get it.
It's a long way to go. I know.
It is. It's a long way.
Cock and rooster.
Yeah.
Cock is food, and
Well,
rooster
no,
is
not
not?
necessarily, but
Because I've seen, there's a recipe they used to put in the
coq au vin.
No, that's not the one. No, this is in the Renaissance Fair.
Yeah.
There was a book, I don't remember which guild had it, that had a recipe. I can't remember what it was called, but it was something cock something. And reading this recipe would turn your stomach, because it's like, clean and age the rooster for 14 days.
Yeah. You're just like, oh God, no wonder so many people died. Dear Lord. Yeah.
But I feel like all of us go through it. Like so at some point very soon, I'm going to be exposing Joey to Harlem Nights, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. And if he doesn't laugh uproariously at every moment of this movie, I'm going to be really sad.
Yeah.
Litmus
Break up with
test.
him. That's
Yeah.
how you break
It's a
up with
litmus
him.
test.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And,
Hard line in a relationship
Yeah.
right there.
right, yeah. No, I mean, like, he won when I showed him the first episode of Star Trek,
Yeah.
the original series, and he's like, yes, Dr. McCoy's ass. And I'm like, okay, this is the boy for me.
Yeah.
But like, you know, but my brother several years ago, he was like, "This is my favorite movie, the best comedy I've ever seen," and it was it's called Love Stinks. It's a French Stewart movie that he like made to star French Stewart right after 30 Rock ended, and my brother loves this fucking movie, and he showed it to me, and I was just like,
Oh,
this
God.
is awful.
So bad.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you know, I think we get like that as GMs. It's very easy. Like, you put all this loving care into crafting this beautiful NPC or this, you know, or this dungeon that they just like blow through,
Or this particular moment. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you have to not take it personally.
Yeah.
Because what something that you like, just like your brother's like awesome, great movie, you think, you know, he thinks that is amazing. He wants to show it to everybody, and it's not your thing. So they have their own, whatever they've got, like, you know, agency or some shit. What the fuck is that about? And just kidding, we love their agency. But you know, they've got that agency, and their characters are different than what you as the GM perceive, even if you have a really great understanding. So, like, there's been times where, you know, I've been GMing and characters did things that I thought were like way left field for them, and then they talked to me later and explained, like, oh yeah, she was thinking about this from her past, and you're like, that makes perfect sense. I didn't even know about that thing from her past or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
So, you know, just go with it. It's not bad GMing. It's not like you have to work harder at it. It's just like, here's all the candy on the table. These are all my favorite candies. Oh, you picked peanut butter. Okay.
Well, that's good, because that
fine.
leaves you with more of the favorite
right.
candies.
That's true. Accurate. That's actually my diet plan every Halloween, is I buy all the candy with peanut butter because I don't like peanut butter.
Yeah.
So then I don't eat all the candy.
And if they don't get excited about your NPC that you love so much, then that's fine. They won't remember when you recycle that NPC and turn it into a PC when you're playing the next time.
Yeah.
There you go.
Rename it and recycle.
Right?
24-hour gaming marathon horror story from Frederick's.
Oh my
Who
God.
would like to read?
Frederick.
I will start.
Okay.
All right. Hey, soon-to-be exhausted douchebags. A couple of weeks ago, Stu bemoaned the lack of not horribly horrific horror stories and resolved to pull one in particular from my archives. But now I'm actually watching live because your morning show is prime time for me, and you just announced your 24-hour charity fundraiser, which has started now. Suddenly, my horror story becomes more relevant. Picture the scene. It is sometime in the late 80s at my...
I'm giving you music.
Oh, thank you. That's helpful. We are at my friend Keith's house for a fundraiser. We all, young men turning about 20-ish, volunteered to help Keith raise money for the restoration of a historic ship. The idea was not just 24 hours of RPGs, it was 24 hours of paranoia. This
Holy shit.
may have been mistake number one. I don't know if may should
You
be in
poor
that
bastards.
sentence.
Yeah.
I feel like that should be, this was
Was.
mistake number one, not may have been. All right, continuing. We started one Saturday morning, each of us taking a turn at GMing. My slot was in the early hours of Sunday morning, so we were already feeling the strain. I can't exactly remember the details of the scenario created, and earlier when I ran, where a friend computer sent the red clearance PCs to Mega City 1, is much clearer in my mind. The reason I didn't quite recall the details is because one moment is seared into my cerebral cortex. I can recall that the PCs were on the road to yellow clearance. Indeed, it was the yellow brick road, and friend computer was enjoying being the Wizard of Oz.
That's awesome.
To get what they wanted, the PCs had to convince friend computer that they were Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Lion, and the Tin Man. And
Little dog, too.
in a moment of madness, I suggested that each one of them take in turn dress up. Dorothy came back in a dress, and Scarecrow found a bunch of straw. The Lion wore fur coats, and finally Keith said, "You want a Tin Woodsman? I can get you a Tin Woodsman." He rushed out of the room, and we heard him rummaging. Then, pulling at a starter cord, we looked at each other. A motor caught, sputtered, and failed. He's not, we said. And we asked each other. I went to the door and looked out of the room. Down the hall, Keith was starting a chainsaw.
This is how you die.
Oh, my God. Well, I'm assuming you lived because you typed this email, but we'll see. And just as I looked, the motor caught and roared to life, the chain spinning in the house. Fuck, I shouted, run! And we barged out of the room and ran down the hallway away from the roaring blades and exhaust smoke. Out of the door, out of the house, and down the street into the dawn's early light. We never did finish that 24 hours.
Don't start yawning now.
Sorry.
We got a long ways to go, pal.
It just started, man.
I'll brew some coffee.
Yes, do that.
Yes,
We
please.
bought a coffee maker for the studio just for tonight.
Yes, we did.
We are
Yes.
prepared. We have alcohol and caffeine. Fuck him, we said, and fuck his damn ship. We snuck back to the cars and drove home. Oh, the moral of the story, maybe don't play Paranoia during your fundraiser. Best wishes, Frederick on the forums.
You can play like one game of Paranoia during your fundraiser.
Maybe.
So playing 24 hours of Paranoia, that's taxing.
That's breaking.
Also, don't play with fucking psychopaths. I mean,
In my younger years, that is the sort of stunt I would pull.
Yes.
I would do something.
Yeah, I have no doubt of that.
I don't have a working gas chainsaw anymore, but if I did and that sort of thing came up, I would, in my 20s and 30s, thought it would be really funny if I like go out to...
You would still think that's funny, you're just too lazy to actually go out and get it now.
I'd probably kill myself trying to start it.
Maybe, yeah.
so there are two options. One, you can stay outside, start the chainsaw, and just yell, "I got your tin wood, man, right here." Or you can just bring in the unstarted, non-dangerous chainsaw
Yes.
and say, "Hey."
Or you could commit.
Yeah.
Commit to the bit, man.
Go. Commit. Take it.
Yes, and.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
exactly.
And.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, see, there's a yes and there's yes and.
Right?
Right.
So, yeah.
Sometimes the yes and ends with yes and fuck you too. Yeah.
Yes, and I'm leaving.
Yes.
Yes, right.
I'm out.
Oh my God.
Well, that won't happen because I don't think there's any games of Paranoia being run.
No,
Oh
there
my
are
God,
not
yeah.
any
That is
games
my
of Paranoia.
understanding.
Actually, I've never played Paranoia. But,
No.
But hey, it wasn't a 24-hour marathon of Fatal, so.
That's the one
You know what?
thing we
I
can say
bet
about
character
that.
creation would be a 24-hour marathon in Fatal.
Oh, that's not, no.
1,000-page book, baby.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
One day I will play
No,
this
I
game.
can. I got a copy. I can send. If you really want to see it.
Dave's in the chat room. He says, start it after you take the chain off. Then you get all the awesome audio without the Leatherface in the studio mechanic.
Yes, right, yeah. Or the
Accurate.
accidental chainsaw through the wall.
Right. Yeah, no fucking up the studio. We've worked very hard on it.
Yeah.
It's just now kind of nice, a little.
It's a beautiful studio. I like the
The parts they can see are.
Tee-hee.
Tee-hee. Don't ruin the magic.
Sorry.
It's perfect professional. Yeah.
total magic. Yeah.
Since we're still a little short, should I read one more email?
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got one here.
Okay.
This just came in, I think, today. Yeah, today.
Okay.
10 hours ago. This is from Bill from Longmont, Colorado. Dear Wankers, and I mean Jackers, I want to throw my 2 cents into the discussion about Gygaxian timekeeping. Quote, you cannot have a meaningful campaign if strict time records are not kept. End quote. General consensus seems to be that Gygax is full of shit. It's not that important, and some things about hand-waving travel time. I think those people are missing the key point of the context.
Okay.
After its transition from wargaming, D&D became largely a game of attrition. That's true.
Yes.
You had a quantity of arrows, a set spell selection, a number of healing potions and scrolls, and a specified maximum hit points. And you went into the dungeon, you were expected to come back alive using that allotment of resources. If you ran out of too many of them, you had to... Oh, hello. If you ran out of... I lost my place. If you ran out of too many of them, you had to go back to town to replenish them. Given that your life depended on, among other things, for example, how many torches you had, it was very important to know how long you had been using them. Now, of course, if you want to play a more freeform style game that doesn't factor in torch supplies into success or failure, that's fine. If that's the game you want, go for it. But that isn't quite the Dungeons and Dragons that Gygax created and is commenting on in the quote. Resource management and, by extension, timekeeping was a big part of the older editions of D&D. Anyway, just throwing that out there to the full 10 minutes of airtime, if that. Love the show, Bill, Longmont, Colorado. P.S. Talk about Marvel superhero games, face rip system from the 1980s, please. Someone run a one-shot actual play using it. PP. That's a PPS. Thoughts?
We will try that. We both take a big breath. We're like, okay.
Oh, I have so many thoughts.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Bill is right about a lot of things, which is that D&D as it started is very different from what it's become, and it's been very different at different stages. And this is why, there are a lot of people who dog on 4th edition and say how awful it was. But 4th edition had a lot of good things in it, and for the
wonderful art.
Yeah, wonderful. But,
Absolutely.
for the type of game you want to play, it's great. Like I did a couple of 4th edition dungeon crawls at cons, and those were super fun because you don't have any investment. You just go in and it's essentially playing a very complicated, exciting board game,
right?
Or hopefully exciting, but 5th edition, I think, is much more streamlined, but it's so very drastically different in a lot of ways from the earlier editions.
Yeah,
and
sure.
So just my start. I started with AD&D, and then moved on from there. 3rd edition came in around the time I got into high school and started playing that. But anyway, one of the things I really enjoy as a concept in games is that idea of limited resources. And I like to do journey games. This is one of my favorite things to do, especially as a GM. I want a game that's a journey. I want to track the characters from where they start on one side of the continent all the way to the other side. And,
Right.
And so there's a certain amount of fun to that idea that we only had rations for 10 days and this is a 15-day journey. Now what do we do? I don't really...
Hopefully you figured that out before you left.
Right, hopefully,
Right.
yeah. Or you brought somebody who knows how to hunt,
Right.
And I don't really care about the specifics of it. I don't care if somebody's like, oh, I go gather all my arrows. Let's roll a die to see how many arrows I get back. That's not the point. The point is that that you have finite resources, and that's part of your challenge in the story.
It's not like the journey game, don't stop believing. Yeah.
God.
Sorry.
Why is this happening to me?
Because I love Journey. No, I think you're right. And I do think there are points in every campaign where that time matters. Even in PBTA and stuff like that, sometimes very loose games, time management can be a big factor in there. So while I may not always be a big fan of counting exactly how much money do you have in your bank accounts, or all those things, time management is a factor, I think, in just about every game.
Right.
Because it's oh, you have a problem to solve, and a lot of GMs are and the bad guy's going to do their thing, in a set amount of time. You've got, so long till the bomb's going to go off or whatever.
Right.
So that time management becomes very important for a lot of systems.
Yeah. Right.
And I don't mind things let's drop gold encumbrance.
Right.
It's just such a pain. Give them a bunch of gems instead of 500 gold pieces. And it's fine. But
Make them hire 20 hirelings.
I know, right?
And hope they don't steal some of it.
Right. Oh my god. But I do if characters are in a dungeon and they're like, oh, we just killed these 6 knights in plate mail. Let's take their armor back to town and sell it. No, you're not gonna you've got a wizard and a fighter and a bard. You're not gonna be able to carry 6 sets of plate mail.
Yeah.
like, fuck you. I'll give you money when you get back to town. Like, you can sell a rare figurine for 100 gold. Like, I'm not trying to rob you of your loot, but, like, at least be a little realistic about what you can physically do as a character.
Yeah. They're not swole.
They're not swell. No.
No, I disagree.
But maybe turgid.
I disagree with him. In context, you can understand where Gygax was coming from and why he said it. That still doesn't make it accurate. I believe that even back in the 1970s, you could have a meaningful campaign without keeping accurate time records.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
That is the inverse of what he said.
Yeah.
You cannot have a meaningless campaign if strict time records are not kept.
Meaningful.
Yeah.
Meaningful.
Yes.
Meaningful.
I mean, that is going too
It's
far.
absurd.
Absolutely.
It's
yes.
absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah, to that extent, yes. Like, I do think that, like, that sometimes, like, the time crunch of an event, a particular event, is important for timekeeping.
Sure.
Right.
Like we have to, I don't care so much about
And how accurate? Does it really have to be accurate? I mean, does it really?
Right,
It's like,
yeah.
okay, it's a 3-week journey, and you've got 2 weeks of rations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's
Meh.
a
Who cares?
3-week journey, and you've got 16 days of No, you got 24 ration units. No.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
doesn't have to be that accurate. I don't
Right.
think it has to be that accurate.
Unless it's part of the story. Like, that could be super interesting if you're stuck somewhere.
When
Yeah.
Mac was playing a character with lunacy in Vampire, I had to know what the phases of the moon were.
Exactly.
Because it was important. That's when I started keeping track of the dates.
Yeah.
Every session, I would write down what the date is.
Right.
And I had a lunar calendar to look at.
Yeah.
I mean, I worked on Teen Wolf, and lots of things didn't make sense on that show, but it was like every 2 weeks in the story, there was another full moon.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh no, it's a full moon. It's like 3 days ago you were at the prom, and it was a full moon then too.
Yeah,
And,
amazing.
but whatever. It's a good story.
Yeah.
But yeah, like there are times when it's important to know the time and to keep record. We don't have time for more time. Sorry. Sorry. Deanna Troy's best moment. But there are times when it's important to think about how much time has passed or what your resources are. And then there are other times when it's like just hand wave it because that's not important to the story.
Right.
Yeah. But it depends on if you're playing a story and that's your goal, as opposed to are you playing a very complicated resource management board game?
Yeah.
You know? And if you want that and that's how you like D&D and that's how your friends that you play with like D&D, play it. I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Don't invite me.
Well, they can invite you.
Yeah.
But don't be mad when you respectfully decline.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. I will paint miniatures for you, but I don't want to.
You paint miniatures good?
Huh?
You
Pretty
paint
good. I'm all right.
Okay.
I'm okay. Well,
Sue's building an army.
yeah. It's the thing is I'm a painter. Like I started oil painting when I was 8 years old. That's so that's kind of my background is in painting and art, and so I'm pretty good at it. But it's a format that I haven't done as much as I would like.
Right.
So, but when I do it, I'm pretty good at it. But it's I get impatient. It's way too exacting. So
Got it.
yeah.
I'm checking the tote. Nope, no new donations.
We had one
one?
donation.
We're still at 33 donations.
Oh, did I say? Yeah. I thought.
That one's new.
Yeah, Lloyd is new.
Lloyd.
Yes. So, thank you,
Lloyd.
Lloyd. Super, super helpful, and
Yes.
all donations are appreciated.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you.
Because it was at 33
Yeah, I wrote the
before.
last person down.
Oh,
I said
okay,
it.
all right.
Jeffrey was the last person.
Yeah.
All right, we should
That was the system
save
you
that
came
piece
up
of paper
with.
where you're writing that down on
I am.
for the next group.
Yeah, I'm the next group.
Oh, you're the next group. Okay.
It's true.
So, all right. Should we end it here so we have enough time to
I think so.
change
Sure,
the
yeah.
filter? And
Yeah.
that won't fix it. I got to go out and
No, yeah.
actually take the air
So
conditioner.
I'm
we're gonna
GMing in
stop.
15 minutes.
Yeah, we're gonna stop for a 15-minute break so we can change the name tags on
Are you
everything.
going to keep streaming and put Spinny up?
No, we're gonna stop because that way there'll be separate things for people to watch on YouTube.
Oh, okay. All right.
So that way there's separate games. So we are going to stop. I will still be interacting with the chat room. We'll still be here. Don't go away. We're going to start right at 8 with Adam GMing.
Yes, and if you, what we're going to be playing, I'm calling it Interpol X Origins. But we're going back to the world of Interpol X. If you watched that actual play that ended earlier this year. But we're going to play this world in the 1940s. So you don't have to know anything about Interpol X or have watched it, and it will probably not be any kind of spoiler to watch it. But we're going to see the foundations of that setting in a little game, and we'll see what happens.
Fantastic.
I have no idea.
Yeah. So, yeah, please, if you haven't gone already, any little bit helps. happyjacks.org/rainbow. 100% of the contributions are going to the charity. Like, we're not taking any off the top.
No,
like,
well, the MN takes a small percentage.
Small percentage, yes.
They do
but,
take a small percentage.
yeah, so, but we're not taking anything
we're not
off the
even
top.
seeing the-
Yeah, we're not
We
even
don't.
seeing the
We
money.
won't
We
see
don't
it.
touch it. Let me,
You don't want to see it.
Yeah. So let me just say our schedule for tonight real quick. So first we've got Monster of the Week, GM'd by Adam, and that will be from 8 p.m. to 12 a.m. Pacific time. Then Tappy is running Shadowrun from midnight to 4 a.m. Then Jason is running Masks from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. Then Dave Kazay from Monkey Fun Studios is running his new game, A Town Called Malice. So that's very fun. He'll be running that from 8 a.m. to noon. Then Stuart is running GURPS.
Yeah!
There you go. From noon to 4 p.m. tomorrow. And then we're closing out with Kurt Potts. He's running Savage Worlds game from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
And then after 8 p.m., we'll come back and do thank yous.
Yes, we'll be coming back in and doing thank yous. We'll be announcing stuff. It'll be amazing.
You suck!
You suck!
What's up?
That's how we show affection.
And real quick, for whoever donates the most during the Interpol X game, the Monster of the Week game, I will match the highest donation during that game.
Nice.
So,
You should set a limit.
up to $150.
There you go. Okay, smart.
Because there's certain people who might watch the show who are like, oh, yeah?
Yeah, I got an extra 1,000. Yeah, if you do donate it,
Yeah.
and I will do something really nice for you.
We
and
will love you forever.
match up to 150.
Yeah, absolutely. So, awesome, guys. And yes, don't go away. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Like 10 minutes.
Should I play the
Bye, everyone.
anthem?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's awesome.
But this doesn't mean we're done.
Yep.
We're not leaving. We're still here. We'll be back.
Thank you for joining us for season 23, episode 5 of the Happy Jacks RPG podcast. My name is Stu.
My name is Kimmy.
My name is Adam.
And we'll be back, or Adam will be back
The
with
two
his
of us will be
players
back.
here in about 12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Thank you very much.
It's enough time to get a drink and go to the bathroom.
But we're not going to leave you with a song.
Nope, we're not leaving.
And maybe East Timor.